Moving to NYC can either be exciting or a total disaster if you're not prepared. Scams, tiny apartments, and regrets are everywhere. But by combining my decade plus of local experience with a professional broker, I've put together 10 must-know secrets so you avoid ruining your move to New York.
Starting with a scam so clever, it'll empty your bank account before you even get here. So I heard there was a way to steal thousands of dollars from renters without them ever seeing the property. How common is that?
Unfortunately, it happens way too frequently. A lot of the times it's on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. When you see an apartment for under $1,000 on the Upper East Side, don't even waste your time clicking on it or calling the person.
And it's funny because I have even done shorts on this myself, and it will be a real tour. They're just gonna change the price on it, and then they're gonna try to have you send money through something like Cash App, PayPal. You will never get that money back. And that's important, never to send money first before seeing a unit, right?
Absolutely, because most of the time that unit doesn't even exist. People who use my face, my Instagram, or my videos to try to pretend to be a broker.
Have they actually used your face before?
100%, who wouldn't?
Joey, we're gonna see a real listing right now.
Yep, we're gonna see an ideal starter apartment in the Upper East Side, under $3,000. Let's go check it out.
What floor is this on?
I don't know. An important thing to think about, especially when you're moving into a building without an elevator, you're gonna have to carry your groceries up at all these flights, and every time you leave your apartment, you don't want to go back.
I live that life.
Yeah.
And if you ever do legs day at the gym, you will hate your apartment with a vengeance.
That's why we don't do legs here.
Joey, we have our starter one-bedroom apartment. You're on a tour with a broker. What are the first things you need to look for that a lot of people overlook?
It's very important to check a couple key things. Make sure that the water works. Make sure that the hot water gets hot and the cold water gets cold.
That is scorching hot.
Check inside of all the cabinets. Check to see if there's any mice or bugs or anything like that. Another thing you really want to look at is what's here. Does it have a stove? Does it have an oven? Does it have a dishwasher, a fridge, a microwave? I've had people rent apartments without a broker that only had a stovetop and no oven.
I didn't even know that existed in the city.
Another thing that's super important to think about are their windows.
As someone that lived a decade with almost an identical view, there are pros and cons to this. You are staring at another brick apartment building, so you will not get a lot of noise. But the con is, if you're used to staring outside and seeing nature, it could drag on you a little bit.
I mean, it's also important to think about what direction you're facing. So right now, we're facing north. You're only gonna get a lot of sunshine in the summertime and in the mornings. If you're facing a street versus an alleyway is another thing to keep in mind. There's no cars, there's no traffic, there's no people. You could be facing over a main avenue and be woken up by an ambulance or a police chase or a fire truck in the middle of the night.
Although I think if you live there long enough, you'd probably get used to all those noises anyway.
Another important thing to think about is their overhead lighting.
Okay.
In a lot of these older buildings, they don't have overhead lighting, so you need to have lamps everywhere.
Now here's something that I did not realize when I first moved to New York, and it is this type of old steam heating. And anyone who's ever lived in a building like this, you know those loud, banging, clanking sounds at about 5 o'clock in the morning that could wake you up.
In these old steam radiated heat buildings, it's on in the wintertime and it's off in the summertime. In the wintertime, the only way to control it, opening a window, turning on a fan.
I've known people that their heat was so out of control that they would have to keep the windows open in January.
Yeah. And a lot of times I also see people wrapping these poles because they get so hot in the wintertime you could burn yourself on them.
Check out the closet. It's actually a pretty good closet size, I have to say, for a pretty small apartment.
The custom built-in closet system with racks for your shoes, hanging for your clothes, this is as good as it gets. In a lot of these smaller units, you might not even have a closet in the bedroom.
Where would you put the TV here? I'm actually trying to envision this.
That's actually a great question. I would set up this apartment with a small love seat floating in the middle of the room with a TV on this wall, or a couch off of here with the TV on that wall. Honestly, getting creative in an apartment this size is a must. So at this price point, you're really not gonna see a lot of doorman buildings unless you move towards the East River. But in this case, this unit has a video intercom, so you can buzz people in so you don't have to walk all the way downstairs to let in guests or friends. Another thing to think about without a doorman or a package room is that your Amazon boxes are gonna be a little vulnerable downstairs.
Oh, I used to get my stuff stolen at least once a month. You could always get an Amazon locker or just have a different mailbox store to hold your packages if that's something that you're sensitive about. Let's check out the bathroom.
For a starter apartment, this is immaculate. It looks like they recently renovated. Again, very important, make sure that the water runs, make sure the water gets hot.
What would you do if the water wasn't running or it wasn't hot?
It might be something as simple as the super might have turned it off while the apartment was vacant, or it might be a bigger issue that might be a red flag that you wouldn't want to rent here.
What does it mean in an apartment when you got plastic on the toilet seat?
That means that the last seat was probably disgusting. So they turn, oh, my phone's vibrating in the window, sorry. It sounds like a bar.
That was amazing.
So plastic on the toilet seat is a good sign. That means that they change the seat. You can deep clean, but you can never deep clean someone's butt cheeks off of a toilet.
One of the biggest mistakes you can make moving to New York is not earning points on your rent. And for most newcomers to the city, rent is gonna be your largest expense. Built Rewards basically turns paying your rent into something you actually look forward to. Let me explain. Built is a loyalty program that lets you earn points on rent and around your neighborhood. They've been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate, and they're designed to fit your everyday lifestyle. You can redeem them for flights and hotels, workout classes, towards your next month's rent payment, and a lot more. It's like being a VIP in your own neighborhood. Instead of watching rent money disappear, get rewarded for just living your life. I've blown so much money on rent in the past without getting anything back. It's one of my biggest New York hacks, and for all my foodies watching, you can even use this to earn points on neighborhood restaurants. Just check the app to see what area eateries are participating. It may surprise you. Start earning points right now when you sign up through the link in the description or the QR code on screen, and use my link so they know that I sent you. Built Rewards, such a game changer for any New Yorker. A mistake that I made when I first moved to New York was misjudging the size of my apartment.
Yeah, so I bring a laser measure and a tape measure. If you're moving in with furniture, it's very important to make sure that it's gonna fit in your house that you're moving into.
So what do we got here? Show me, what kind of bed can we fit?
So obviously the headboard would probably be going on this wall. Going this far away, we have 8'7", which you could honestly fit a king, but for the size of the total room, I would suggest a queen or smaller, because then you're not gonna have any room for any nightstands, any other storage or anything like that.
I think a full would work for most single people.
And then it depends. Do you need to fit a desk in here? Do you have extra shoes or clothes? It depends on what your needs are.
If you have existing furniture, you can come in knowing the measurements and just like lay out the tape, know exactly how big your couch is, right?
Yeah, I would specifically ask my clients before a showing if they have any funky shaped furniture or an extra large sectional couch. So I know the length or the width of a king size bed off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But now if it has built-in bed frame nightstands on either side, it changes everything.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be stuck downstairs on the street on move-in day, and it's gonna be a headache that you don't need to deal with.
All right, the great debate, do you live in a walk-up building and spend less money, or do you get all the amenities of a doorman building? What do you tell people?
I mean, it depends on what you need. Obviously, we talked about having a lot of Amazon packages or a lot of grocery deliveries, but you can get a better value apartment for having less amenities. A walk-up building like this in the center of the action might be exactly what you want, 2 seconds from the subway.
If you're up there in age, if you have children, if you have a lot of pets, every doorman building will definitely have an elevator, okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's always important to ask what the amenities are. Is the doorman 24 hours? At 2 o'clock in the morning, if your toilet's flooding, who are you calling?
Joey, honestly, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is picking the wrong neighborhood. How do you know that the area is good or not?
Until you're a neighborhood expert, you're really not gonna know what the neighborhood's like until you've actually lived there. It's important to come nighttime to see what the neighborhood's like, see what the shops are like, see how much commotion's going on at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're gonna be trying to sleep, and see what the party and the bar scene, the restaurants look like at night also.
Super important, speaking of neighborhoods, is how close are you to the nearest subway? Now, when it's snowing, when it's super cold out, when it's raining, do you want to walk 15 minutes to the nearest train?
And not only that, but what subway line do you usually take? Do you want to be by the Q, by the 456, by the 123? It depends where you're going every day, because those extra blocks really add up.
And if you work strictly from home, then subways don't matter as much.
No, and you might as well look a little bit further out of the beaten path to get a better value apartment.
Another part of the neighborhood is knowing what your local amenities are. How close is the nearest laundromat? Where's the nearest bodega, deli? Where's the nearest grocery store? Where's the nearest cafe? These are all things that you might overlook. Oh, it's my lucky day. This is either the best or the worst idea for a business card ever. What is this?
Sometimes it pays to be creative in New York City, battling all these scammers and other agents.
This is a studio for under $2,600 a month in Manhattan. I didn't even know they had apartments this cheap anymore.
Not only Manhattan, we're in the prime Upper East Side. To find these, you gotta work with Joey Nina, kid, come on.
5th floor. Oof.
See, normally when I'm on a showing, I have to walk really slow up the stairs and pause and talk to you so I'm not out of breath and sweating upstairs.
I'm too old for 5th floor walk-ups.
Wait till you get to my age, kid.
I'm older than you.
All right, John, this is it.
Space like this, pretty small. What real estate euphemisms could you use to describe this?
I would have to say cozy, quaint, efficient, open floor plan.
Could fit 2 roommates with bunk beds maybe.
I've seen it.
First thing I saw was the lighting. If you're gonna walk to the 5th floor, you're gonna be closer to heaven, okay? I think a mistake people make is with roommates, because having a roommate in New York is about as common as rats in the subway.
My first apartment, I didn't even meet my roommates until I moved in, and I found the apartment on Facebook. Do not recommend. Work with a broker and we can do background checks, credit pulls, so you're not stuck paying rent for 2 people.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is most of the time in the city, room sizes are different, so are you going to be paying a little bit more, a little bit less if your room has a separate bathroom, if your room is twice as big?
So you have to be fair.
What's up with these tiles? I feel like I've seen tiles like this in every East Village apartment.
So these I would say are retro, vintage, eclectic.
Retro, vintage, and eclectic.
But notice, we don't have a dishwasher. We have about this much counter space.
Yeah.
And the stove looks like it's older than me and you combined. The refrigerator would only hold leftovers for about 1 day because it's so small. But at this price point, it's gonna go fast.
This actually, I think, would be a great apartment maybe for like a Murphy bed.
Murphy beds are definitely popular in units like this, but they are really expensive and they're hard to move, especially up 5 flights of stairs.
How does somebody actually set a budget? You need to make how much more than the rent?
To qualify on your own, the bare minimum is to make 40 times the monthly rent. But in a lot of buildings, they accept guarantors, whether it be personal, like if you have a rich sugar daddy. But there's also some buildings that accept third-party corporate guarantors, where you can essentially pay them to be your guarantor. It adds on to the list of fees that you're gonna have to pay. But if you're having tough credit, or maybe your income is not exactly at that 40 times, it's really your only option other than just getting another roommate.
How often do you see the sugar daddy, sugar mama situation for a guarantor?
I plead the 5th.
Something that is really, really unique to New York are broker's fees. And this confuses a lot of new residents and it gets a lot of old residents upset. What's your take on them and what's the math like?
So paying a broker is gonna help you out so you're not gonna get scammed. We have a license from the state. We care about your situation and only you. We're not negotiating with the landlord, we're negotiating for you as if it was my own apartment. The fees usually range between 1 month and 15% of the annual rent. For this one, it'd be $2,500 to $3,000 approximately.
Let's talk math a bit. Do you go for the cheaper apartment with a broker's fee or the more expensive one without one?
Finding a place around $3,000 with a fee or $3,300 without is gonna equate to almost the same amount at the end of the year. But usually the rent in New York City goes up 1 to 5% per year. So when you're increasing that $3,300 number at 5% versus $3,000, you're gonna be paying a lot more on year 2.
If you're still there 5 years later, you win.
Oh, that is the best case scenario.
Now, something that a lot of people don't realize moving to the city is that really in-demand apartments will go within 1 to 2 days. Could go the day that it's listed. What do you need ready to apply so that you're not gonna miss out?
Honestly, having a folder on your phone or your computer with all of your documents. You need W-2s, tax returns, bank statements, letters of employment, any other proof of assets. Bonus points, if you get letters of recommendation from a previous landlord or a professional colleague, you're gonna be a leg up on those other people applying because they're gonna take time to have to get those letters.
When you actually sign a lease, what questions would you ask the landlord that most people wouldn't think about?
So when you're at lease signing, it's almost too late. You need to have asked these questions already. You need to ask what's included, utilities, any amenity fees if there are any, what numbers to call in case of an emergency.
And you also need to ask about breaking a lease, what the procedure would be.
Yeah, so a lot of times people in the city, they could lose a job, they could break up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, they could find a boyfriend or girlfriend. You have to ask, what's the procedure? Because sometimes a landlord's gonna charge you 3 months penalty or even give you no chance to terminate your lease whatsoever. Please, please, please read the lease.
Something that you may not realize moving to New York is there are better months and times of year to rent than others.
Yeah, so the summertime, there's higher demand, but there's also a higher supply. There's gonna be a lot more options, but they're gonna go really, really quick. Now in the wintertime, there's a lot fewer options, but there's a lot less people in the pool of looking for new leases. You're gonna find the best deals and the most concessions. In a lot of instances, you can actually get a free month's rent or no fee added in, or sometimes even the amenities can be included.
And something else to keep in mind, don't necessarily jump on the first unit that you see unless it's like your dream apartment, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options in this city and you'll always find something better. Finding an apartment in New York City is almost like swiping on these dating apps. You can be on StreetEasy, Zillow, Redfin, whatever. You're gonna find a million apartments that look great in pictures and have all these fancy broker euphemisms.
Yeah, just because you swipe right doesn't mean it's a match.
No, a lot of these matches are actually catfish.
That's true.
So John's gonna put my information in the description below, and if you need help navigating this crazy rental market in New York City, or if you have a rich sugar daddy or sugar mama that wants to sell their penthouse, call me, Joey Nina, and let me help you out.
One of the mistakes in this video was picking the wrong neighborhood, and in this video, we rank New York's neighborhoods from worst to best, so you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. Watch this next.